Let's talk about some special cases for finding slope of a line from equations. And we'll use our dinosaur friend to help illustrate this once again. And as an intro, let's of course remember our goal, and that is to identify the slope of horizontal and vertical lines, in this case, especially from their equations. And let's also try to remember, how do you find the equation of a horizontal or vertical line? Well, let's look at our friend Charlie. He's hanging out on the grassy savannas, and he is walking along towards this volcano, and it's pretty flat land. So what do we call that? That is a horizontal line. Where does it cross the y-axis? Well, right here at y equals 1, and guess what? That is the equation of the line right there. Y equals 1, and the equation of any horizontal line is in that form of y equals. Well, what can we do with this? What can we do with y equals 1? How can we find its slope? There's a lot of different ways that we could attack this. So let's start by reviewing one way we can find slope. So if you remember, slope is rise over run, and we can find that by using two different points: y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And again, that's just kind of saying the change in y over the change in x. So let's pick two different points on this line. We've already got 1, and so that first point is at the point 0, 1. And our other point is, well, let's just pick one. Let's pick this one out here. That is at the point 1, 2, 3, 4, and up 1. So 4, 1. Actually, let me write that down here where it's a little more clear where we can see it. So we have 0, 1, and we have 4, 1. And let us now name each of those pieces. Let's have x1, y1, and x2, y2. So let's put that in the equation. M equals 1 minus 1 over 4 minus 0. And what do you notice happens? We have 0 over 4. What's 0 over anything? 0. So this is a case, a horizontal line, and you could do this with any point on here. You would always get 0 on top. That a horizontal line has a slope of 0. And think about it, that makes sense, right? If you're walking on flat land and you said, what's the slope of this? Well, it's not going uphill, it's not going downhill. It's flat, it has 0 slope. You can also think about it this way. If you look at m equals, or slope equals rise over run, there is no rise, there is 0 rise. So you put a 0 in the numerator. 0 divided by anything is always 0. So in this case, we have 0 slope. All right, well, let's talk about a vertical line now. Can you remember the equation for a vertical line? Well, vertical line crosses the x-axis. So let's look at where it does that. Well, it crosses the x-axis right here at x equals 1, 2. So x equals 2, and that is the equation of a vertical line. X equals something, in our case, x equals 2. So let's do what we just did with the horizontal line. Let's pick another point. Let's pick this one up here. What is this point? Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we're over 2 in the x, and we're up 5 in the y, so it's 2, 5. And our first point was 2 in the x, 0 in the y. So let's put that into our equation for slope. M equals y2 minus y1. It's always good practice to write this out just so we remember it. Again, this is the change in y over the change in x, the rise over the run. And y1, y2, x1, x2, you could put those in different orders as long as you are consistent. So let's be consistent with them. So if our 2 points are, let's see, we have 2, 5, and we have 2, 0. So let's label those x1, y1, x2, y2. So the slope in this case will be, if we plug it into our formula here, we have 0 minus 5 over 2 minus 2. Well, this will give us negative 5 on top. And what does it give us in the denominator? 0. Well, what happens when you divide anything by 0? You can't do it. It's undefined. That equals undefined, right? You're not allowed to divide by 0. So in this case, we say we have an undefined slope, or we have no slope. There is no slope. And think about it. If our little dinosaur guy, Charlie, is walking along and all of a sudden the volcano erupts and he runs and he runs and he falls off the edge of a cliff, what would you say about that slope? Well, it's not really uphill. It's not downhill. It's a solid cliff. It's a wall. You can't walk up a cliff unless you are Spider-Man or a gecko with those crazy suction cup feet. So something like this, a cliff, since it will always be dividing by 0, it has no slope. Not 0 slope. 0 is still a number, but it has no slope. It is undefined. And that is how we find the slope of horizontal and vertical lines from the equation, using the graphs to help us, and using the equation for slope to help us think about it. So make sure you check in with the Google form that has a couple questions about this topic, and you should be well set for the next couple days. We'll see you soon.